Hi, everybody. When it comes to preparedness, lots of things we need to prepare for, including war. I've been talking about how the military is going to start conscription again in the United States. It looks like we've already taken that first step. Let's jump right into this. I've had numerous people send this to me, by the way. It's a document by the Army, utilization of the Army Retiree Recall Program. So first and foremost, even though this is not conscription yet, it's the first step toward basically bringing people back in for what's called the inactive Ready Reserve. When we see Ready Reserve, any Ready Reserve are basically forces that we can keep basically on the back burner. You know what? If you just retired, you can't go back in. But in this document, what it's saying is the retirees absolutely may be recalled back into the military again. First, it lists Title 10 of the United States Code. That simply is just the code of basically how all this works. But I want to show you this. Also under Executive Order 13223, it orders this Ready Reserve of the Armed Forces to active duty and delegating certain authorities to the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Transportation. This executive order, if you look here, comes from nobody but George W. And George W., post 9/11, which we see declaration of national emergency by reason of certain terrorist acts, etc., creates a national emergency to protect the United States from further attacks. Operation Enduring Freedom. Operation Let's Send People All Over the World to be able to fight for the United States under the guise of the attacks on 9/11. There were so many of our freedoms and liberties taken away post 9/11. It's frightening. And now we're seeing, as we're heading into World War III, the next few days I'm going to show you some of the articles too. A lot of stuff happening right now. They're basically using this executive order from George W. to now have the ability to recall retirees back into the service, including the Secretary of Defense can now order retiree personnel back to active duty, management of regular and reserved retired military members, management and recall to active duty of retired soldiers in the Army in support of mobilization and peacetime operations. We don't even have to be at war for this. Also, situation and review of command request for fill of authorized personnel vacancies in conjunction with current Army manning guidance. We talked in just a previous video about this, that there were hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the Ready Reserve just a few years ago. Today, there's only 76,000. And the Army War College has put out that if we do go to a major war and conflict like this, there's no way we'll have enough manpower to continuously replenish. And so obviously this is the first step of the military to bring retirees as the first ones back into the military. All Army National Guard of the U.S. and United States Army Reserve soldiers with at least 18 years of active federal service and who will attain 20 years or more for a regular retirement. But look at this. Also, non-regular retirees on the retired reserve list who have less than 18 years and are not currently receiving retired pay, along with non-regular retirees who will become sanctuary eligible during a retiree recall must either be collecting a retirement or be eligible to otherwise collect retirement by the end of the retiree recall order. So in other words, freshly retired or just about retired, or you're just about to the retirement part and you still aren't even receiving retirement, you know what? You may be called back in again. Retired personnel of all grades are eligible for retiree recall to active duty. There is no age limitation, although, you know what? Personnel older than 70 are not normally recalled. In other words, if you're over 70, you still may get recalled. But anybody up to 70 years old, let's say you've been retired for 30 years from the military and you're 68, you may get recalled. That's literally what this is saying. And we're going to go through a bunch of examples, by the way, but there's one really scary one I'm going to show you. So make sure you go through all these. Examples of soldiers eligible for the program include retiring officers who are unable to obtain a mandatory retirement date extension. In other words, you're retiring. Oh, not anymore. Active Guard Reserve soldiers who were selected for release. Oh, we're going to let you go. Not anymore. You're coming back in. But look at this. Soldiers retired for disabilities includes retirees for disabilities or any retiree over the age of 60, as age or disability may not be the sole basis for excluding a retired service member. In other words, you went over, good job, you've been injured. You know what? Uncle Sam's helping you out now. You have some VA benefits because of that. Oh, no, you're also coming back in because we're that desperate and we need the soldiers. And it continues, if you have a Department of VA disability and are receiving compensation through the VA, you know what? Are you coming back in? You bet you are. The disability payments will cease while on retiree recall orders. I'm sorry, you disabled people. You may only receive one form of compensation while on active duty. Usually that means the active duty pay and allowances. In other words, you're not getting retirement, you're coming back in. Your retirement pay will be suspended. You must notify the VA of your active service, that's nice, and make a pay election, suspend your payments. Failure to do so will result in collection actions for overpayment. So not only are we literally adding insult to injury, injured veterans who probably saw a lot of the stuff in combat are injured and now are home because of VA disability. You know what? We don't care about the disability. You're coming back into active duty. But you know what? As far as pay goes, you better worry about it, because if you don't tell the VA you're going to be getting double payment, then the VA wants their money back because you're now back in active duty again. This is insane. Again, this is just the first steps, everybody. We're heading for a conscription, but the first thing is, let's bring all these people who were in the military back again into a ready reserve, well, just in case. And there's a little bit more, but it's not as actually as important. We'll look at it real quick. Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act applies to all retired soldiers. Protection under uniformed services reemployment rights. In other words, you'll get your job back if you make it back home. Recalled personnel do not receive additional entitlements to educational benefits. So much for that. And you are put right back into the group life insurance policy in case you're killed in action. This is frightening. This is the first steps toward conscription. Let's bring back the people who are already trained, who are retired, even disabled, back into the military. I mean, I'm not saying this is Nazi-esque. I'm not saying that. But the Nazis brought people back well into their 70s or 80s to be able to have anybody they can to fight in the war. That's not what we're seeing here. Here we're seeing the people who were in the military who were trained, even if you're in 60s. Some people, even if you're in your 70s, may get recalled back to active service again, active duty. This is not speculation or hyperbole. This is happening right now as to get ready for what? Your guess is as good as mine. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.